Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, how we doing, my brother?
Doing good, my man. Now, let me wish you a happy new year and happy new year to everyone else.
Yes, we are back. We had a fun New Year's, and we are excited to talk about playoff football. The regular season is done, and the playoffs are set. So we have a lot to talk about this episode. But first, let's get to some teams that are not in the playoffs that got rid of their head coaches just right after the regular season. So, Chris Palmer, do you want to lead us on the coaches that got fired?
Well, yeah, I think the first one that everyone really wants to know about is the biggest confusion out of everyone is Miami getting rid of Brian Flores. It's still, I don't understand. What do you think?
You know what it is Brian Flores, he's one of those coaches where he was a rising star, where the team bought into him late this year, but yet you could see that they were really getting it together as a team. And I just feel so bad for the players that have really established chemistry and just an understanding of what he was trying to accomplish as a coach. I think his firing was way premature. I get it. In Miami, they want to make the playoffs, and obviously they just didn't make the playoffs, and which is crazy because since the 2 weeks that we were not here, we were expecting Miami to get into the playoffs, but then they lost to Tennessee, and at that point it was irrelevant. And
they needed a lot more help than they could ever get after they lost that game.
Yeah, so I don't fault Brian Flores for that. I thought that because they had a lot of injuries earlier on in the season, it was tough for them to compete, especially being that their schedule was very hard at the beginning of the season.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But even still, Miami looked like a very competitive team under Brian Flores, and he's just one of those coaches where you and I, we just don't think Miami should have got rid of him.
I'm still shaking my head at it. There's especially when the owner came out and they were asking about what is going on with Brian Flores. You know who he said that he's actually going to hunt for? Jim Harbaugh.
Oh.
Yeah, you heard me correctly. They're in the hunt to go after Jim Harbaugh.
It's not going to happen.
For those who don't know, he was in the league for a while. He was a coach of the 49ers. He was known as a proverbial choke artist for years, because he was originally a Michigan coach in college. Guess where he is now, guys? He's back in Michigan. He had one good season. That was this year, where he made the playoffs. Good for you. You didn't make it anywhere else. You lost the playoff game. Wow. Jim Harbaugh.
So I'm not expecting Jim Harbaugh to go to Miami this offseason, but man, Brian Flores was not the guy to get rid of.
Absolutely not.
So, but let me ask you, what do you feel about the Giants getting rid of Joe Judge?
It was only a matter of time. It was really only a matter of time. He was driving a sinking ship is really what it was. The Giants have been in disarray for years. New Jersey, New York / New York football has been in disarray for years as a collective. But Joe Judge did not make things better. If anything, he made things worse. That was only a matter of time.
Yeah, in New York, everyone's very impatient when it comes to their football teams, and it does take a while for teams to start clicking. But when you see the teams click, you can understand what the coach is trying to do. But when you don't see the teams click, like in New York, it makes for a very long season.
Well, it's also it's hard to see what Joe Judge even wanted to do. He had no coordination when it came to a playbook, anything, drafting, anything, and that also has to do with the general manager, who I believe had since been let go as well.
Yeah, Dave Gettleman.
And that is probably what pushed Joe Judge out the door, because him and Gettleman, they liked each other, but they just weren't good for each other. They were not good for the franchise of the Giants, and I hope this is going to be a breath of fresh air and will be kind of like a rebuilding of the Giants. I have a lot of respect for the Giants as a franchise, but they need to get it together, because as of right now, they don't even have the cap space to fill a 52-man roster.
You know what it is for the Giants, they don't have the cap space, and they've been struggling to just keep to a coach ever since Tom Coughlin left. So Ever since Tom Coughlin left, you have Ben McAdoo, you had Joe Judge. There's only so many times you can restart. And I think once you have to get not just the next coach, you have to get the right coach.
Right.
And so the Giants, you have to get the right coach, and you got to stick with him for more than 3 years if you have any hope to build a team up in time. It doesn't take long for the bad teams to, good teams to go bad or bad teams to be bad. But if you stay bad as an organization for so long, that's a reflective of the organization as a whole, including general manager, head coach, the owner. There's just something wrong that teams are unable to succeed. And I want to see the Giants succeed, but good luck with your rebuild.
Yeah, but you got to almost hope that it is a rebuild. You know, they're going to do these things, and if they go back into the we need to win now situation, it's going to be nothing but dog shit for years. But if they go into it like, okay, we're going to rebuild, we're going to start from the inside and work our way out, kind of like what Miami did, what Cincinnati did, what Cleveland is doing currently. They're still trying to find a quarterback, but that's neither here or there.
Chargers with Brandon Staley.
Buffalo with Sean McDermott.
Yep.
So all these teams, they started from the inside and worked their way out. They realized you need organization within the coaching and the management. But I agree with you. You don't want years of bad to cover a history of respectful football and organizationship being with the Giants. Another one that seemed to really be confusing, though, to me, was Matt Nagy getting fired in Chicago.
Yeah, well, honestly, that for Matt Nagy and just like Joe Judge, the writing was on the wall. There were rumors in Chicago that they were going to get rid of Matt Nagy, their head coach, since Thanksgiving. So,
yeah.
But they stuck with him till the end of the season. But as soon as the end of the season hit, you're out. Now, Matt Nagy, he's another coach that just didn't get enough time to develop a team. And I see a pattern here with all these coaches leaving. Is like they were hired for 2-3 years or so, had a little bit of success, but they still needed just a little bit of more work on their team. But they could have been there. They could have done something. And it seems like with Brian Flores, Joe Judge, and Matt Nagy, they all just had 2-3 years, respectively, and then management said, see ya. But for Matt Nagy, I thought he was a good coach for the Bears. But again, just the upper management doesn't know how to get players or pay players properly because they're just reaching the cap right now. There's no cap space or ability to buy or to give players lucrative contracts in the offseason.
Right. So now everyone's on a short-term contract. You also need to now find the cap space to hire a coach. And same thing now, they're in the same boat with the Giants. Them having no cap space means they're not going to be able to find a coach of merit. So it's going to be more of a rolling dumpster fire now, especially in Miami, because they have very little cap space, but they have a lot of draft picks. So that's where they can make up in that for an inadequacy at coach. The Giants have nothing. They can't even suit a full team. Who are they going to hire?
Maybe Brian Flores, but
they can't afford him. That's what I'm trying to get at. They can't afford a meritable coach like Brian Flores because of their lack of space. Mm-hmm. They can't afford no one. And you think anybody on that overpaid team is gonna be willing to take a pay cut? No.
In Chicago? No, absolutely not.
No, absolutely not. Everybody's overpaid in Chicago, and that's just the way it is.
Well, so Brian Flores, we think the Dolphins should not have gotten rid of Brian Flores.
Correct.
Should the Giants have gotten rid of Joe Judge?
100%.
Should the Bears have gotten rid of Matt Nagy?
Personally, I don't think so, but, again, the writing was on the wall. I personally think the kiss of death was when he decided to dedicate time to Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
That was just the kiss of death. They saw the beginning of what was happening in Philly with Jalen Hurts happening in Chicago, and they were like, you got to go.
Yeah,
that's not how it works here.
Should the Broncos have gotten rid of Vic Fangio?
No, absolutely not. They should not have. They were a piece away from being a playoff team. Had Teddy Bridgewater not gotten the injury he got, they would be in the playoffs right now.
They were fighting for their playoff lives throughout the season.
And up until Teddy got out, it was like they just very well could sleep into the playoffs. And then the terrible concussion neck injury that Teddy Bridgewater attained. The man has no luck. It's unfortunate. So now Denver, all they really needed was a quarterback. You go in, you draft a quarterback, and now Vic Fangio is he's a respectable coach, and he knows how to mold players. They're a good young team in Denver. Give him a quarterback, maybe a lineman, and then one defenseman. They're a playoff team. Like, no questions asked, they're a playoff team.
They definitely need a little bit more depth on their defense, but their offense is good. They definitely have an identity where it's like they have a solid run game, a solid defense, and a couple playmakers on the outside, maybe one or two more, like a wide receiver, another tight end or so. But obviously the glaring need of quarterback. So I'm interested to see who they pick up as their coach, but also as their quarterback going forward into next year.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of moves in Denver, especially this offseason, so keep an eye for them. But let me ask you one more question. Should the Minnesota Vikings have gotten rid of Mike Zimmer?
The right person could tell you yes. Again, I personally don't feel so. I liked Mike Zimmer as a coach. I feel like what the problem in Minnesota was that their team was getting old. It's just the aging of Minnesota, and there's no progression when it comes to depth in their roster. After their starting lineup, they really don't have much talent. They have a talent, like we always say that when it comes to the talent pool, in Pittsburgh, Baltimore, what have you, it's a mile wide. It's not a mile wide in Minnesota. They don't have many good young players where you could turn and be like, he's going to be good. Mm-hmm. After Harrison Smith, who's their backup safety?
Do they have Damian Harris?
I thought he was on the other side.
No, you're right. No, there was his last name was Harris, number 41. But yeah, they don't have depth. And to piggyback off what you were saying is, especially in their cornerback position as well, they have Patrick Peterson, but again, old,
aging.
He's late. He's past his prime. A lot of these players, and you're absolutely right, these players are very past their prime. Their prime was a couple years ago when they had that really great defense of Daniil Hunter, Everson Griffin,
Anthony Barr,
Eric Kendricks. And Eric Kendricks is still there too, but again, he's
again, they're now on the descent of their careers, but Mike Zimmer still had the right idea.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook, he's now I believe he's rejuvenated his career.
Oh yeah.
He's arguably one of the best running backs in the league still.
And Justin Jefferson,
second
year in the league, and he said, "Watch me."
He said, "Watch me, here I come." And now again, I think Kirk Cousins they could do better than Kirk Cousins, but he's having a great year. He had a great year.
He probably had his best year so far.
I agree with that. Wholeheartedly. And, that is a testament to Mike Zimmer as a coach. He turned, again, a skeleton crew of a team into questionable playoff contenders that just need a couple of good young guns on the field on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
And, no, I don't. This is one of the ones where it's just like a slam dunk. No, just like Brian Flores, it shouldn't have happened. That was a lot of impatience when it comes to management to get rid of the two of them.
So I gotta say, I agree with you. I don't think the Vikings should have gotten rid of Mike Zimmer. But it's going to be interesting to see what kind of coach and what kind of style all these teams decide to go for in the future. They have young teams, and that's what you want as a coach. You want young, hungry teams. But they're also going to be just subject to their own division, as well as they're going to be starting a little bit late to the race than other teams are reaching right now.
Yeah, but in that sense, you got to think almost better late than never.
Yeah.
If you're going to be late, at least you have to know going in, we are late. It's not going to be pretty for a couple of years, but we need to establish who we are as a team now, because everyone already has, and we need to learn how to, we need to fight the division, and we need to win games as a young, broken down team from with having to go with an overhaul of coaching. Mm-hmm. It's really concerning for Miami to me personally. Going back to Miami quickly, I feel like getting rid of Brian Flores set them back 5 years or more, depending on who they go for.
Yeah. That's the one thing you don't want to do with a young quarterback is you don't want for him to not have consistency within his coaching. You don't want him to go through like Baker Mayfield, like we were talking about before. Baker Mayfield in his 5 years, in just going into his 5 years of being in the NFL, he's had 4 different coaches.
Right.
So this is something that you need to establish a culture and to kind of be stable in your coaching tree and decisive on the vision you want for your team going forward, and having the players understand, like, look, this is what we want to achieve. Once you get them to buy into that, then that's when teams start winning games.
Right. And then now flipping back to Minnesota, the issue with them is now they're just old. They bought into the whole message that Mike Zimmer wanted to go. We're going to be a run-heavy offense. We're going to be a tough defense. And we're going to cause turnovers, and we're not going to allow points on the board. Mm-hmm. They're just old. They're still doing that to the best of their capabilities. As a team, it's just not where it was. So you need a couple of fresh, young, talented kids to run around and be nasty. So out of all of these, what is your least favorite move?
Man. I got to go with the Brian Flores move because, again, it's just that Miami looked so good this year. Even despite their rough start to the year, they looked really good as a total unit. Mm-hmm. And I think I like what he envisioned for the Miami Dolphins, and I just don't think he was given enough time to do it.
I agree with that. The Miami Brian Flores thing was, without a doubt, the worst firing so far in this offseason for players, the teams that are no longer in the season.
But, man, we're going to keep an eye on those teams going forward in the offseason. But that's the offseason.
It's playoff time.
We have playoff football.
It's playoff time.
We have playoff football to talk about. Okay, and so we actually have a plethora of games to talk about, and we're all going to talk about them just little by little, just to give you our thoughts on these games. But we have 2 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday, and we're going to have the first ever Monday night playoff game. Woo!
And there's no better 2 teams to play it, but we'll get into that.
But we're going to get into that. But the first game is the Las Vegas Raiders going into Cincinnati to play the Cincinnati Bengals, who won the AFC North. Mm-hmm. The Ravens missed the playoffs, going 8-9, but the Steelers found their way in there.
It ain't over yet, Pop.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that later in this episode. But in regards to the Raiders and the Bengals, this is probably for the first game of the playoffs, I like it. I like it a lot because they're teams that when they're playing their best,
it's scary.
It's very scary. The Raiders are just coming off of what looks to be the game of the year last week, in my opinion. That game against the Chargers was a barn burner of a game, and watching Derek Carr just light it up and Josh Jacobs just running all over everybody, I think the Raiders are going to give the Bengals fits, especially just coming off the momentous game. And Cincinnati, they did not play Joe Burrow last week against the Browns, and they lost 21-16 to the Browns. But again, they're resting some of their players, but they had some of them in. Jamar Chase played a little bit, mm-hmm. They looked bad, but they weren't supposed to look good.
Right.
They were because this was the Bengals B team, and I think they were just kind of like, look, telling Joe Burrow, look, we already won the division, we're in. Just rest up this game, but you got to be ready come the playoffs.
Right.
And so this is, I think, Derek Carr and Joe Burrow's first playoff game.
Yep.
So.
Yep, that is 100% true.
Both their playoff games. Derek Carr has never made it to playoffs before, and the Bengals are in the playoffs. Right there. But you told me an interesting stat before.
Yeah, and as interesting as it is, it's almost upsetting.
It's sad.
There has never been a text message sent about the Cincinnati Bengals winning a playoff game. Now, let me explain. 1991 was Cincinnati's last playoff win. Text messaging was invented in 1992. Now, going into this game, to me, it's almost a little disappointing that it's the first game.
Really?
Now, let me explain.
Okay.
This has AFC Championship written all over it.
I don't know about that.
With both teams firing on both cylinders, there's not many teams that can beat them. Now, this I would like to see deeper into the playoffs than a round one wildcard game. Yes, I know what I'm saying. I want to see Cincinnati move forward.
Oh,
I
God.
do. I want to see this game specifically in the division round. And see where those two teams, now coming on a fucking Cinderella story of playoff berths, who goes to the championship now? You have to play AFC Championship football to move forward.
Well, it's not the case this year.
I get it.
So
but that's where I'm at with this game. This game is going to be so much fun to watch. Burrow, Jamar Chase, and again, now they're in postseason football again. Because, again, they played in college together. In Vegas, Derek Carr, I have a soft spot for them. I've been saying it. Derek Carr has been getting consistently better since he broke his leg. I don't know. This is going to be a great game.
Yeah, I gotta say, for those of you who did not see the game, Week 18 Chargers and Raiders, the primetime game, that was probably one of my favorite games this year, and it may be my candidate for Game of the Year, but we'll discuss that later on. But in that game, Derek Carr, he was efficient. He looked just so pristine. He was on point all game. And it was great because Justin Herbert just matched him.
Yeah.
Like pound for pound.
Justin Herbert's special, man.
Justin Herbert is very special. And I'm upset that they didn't make the playoffs. But I'm kind of happy that the Raiders are in because I want to see Josh Jacobs against this Bengals defense. And I think, honestly, we're probably going to see a good majority of Josh Jacobs going into this game. Because what's the one way to stop a great offense from being on the field?
Well, I'm going to piggyback you for a second. It's to keep that offense off the field with running the ball. Josh Jacobs can do that. So can Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon can. He can.
So I feel like this is going to be a very run-heavy game.
Well, the Bengals don't choose to run that often. They actually have like a 3-to-1 passing ratio than running. So they don't necessarily like to run the ball, but I agree with you.
They're good at running the ball.
Joe Mixon can get it done. Mm-hmm. And I agree with you on that.
So that's what I like really going into this game. It was kind of like when we were talking about the Chargers and the Raiders. It's going to be like the same team playing themselves. Mm-hmm. You know, there's very, very minimal differences when it comes to these two teams because when one side is off, usually the other's on fire when it comes to offense and defense. So, but if both teams come out ready to play on both sides of the ball, this game's going to be such a fun game to watch.
This is going to be a very fun game to kick off the playoffs. But we have another game on Saturday, and that is the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills, round 3.
Round 3.
Round 3.
I didn't hear no bell.
It's hard playing divisional games against the same opponent in the playoffs. It's so, like, coming from Ravens-Steelers rivalry, those games matter.
That's rough.
So much more. And it makes you just, like, whoever loses just makes you hungry for, like, to just meet him again. Yeah. And I think this is, honestly, a great playoff game to really solidify the newfound division rivalry between Mack Jones and the Patriots and Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. Like, this rivalry game is going to be so fun to watch, but the Bills are very similar to the Bengals, where they don't choose to run often, but when they do, Devin Singletary can get it done. And I think that we're not going to see the first matchup of this team because that's the Patriots elected to run the ball over
98% of the time that
40
game.
times. Like, I think they ran it 46 times that game for over 200 yards.
Right.
And Mack Jones was 2 for 3.
Mm-hmm. 98% of their plays they ran.
and they ran the ball. So what Belichick is telling you is that in order, like, the Bills' run defense is really not that good compared to their secondary. Their secondary is great in coverage, but they can, like, if you run the ball on them and keep their offense off the field, it's going to be the same for the same problem that the Bengals will face, where their offense is not going to be on the field as often and as frequent as they wanted to. But I think this game is probably going to be more so the second matchup, where the Bills are going to say, hey, look, we're going to have a balanced attack, and we're just going to stop your run game. We're just going to stop them right up front and not allow any runs to the outside, and just stop them right there in front and force the Patriots to throw the ball with Mack Jones. And I think that's what we're going to see more so in this game. But it's going to be fun to watch.
First off, I want to give my hats off to Mack Jones, man. Kid's playing really well. You know, again, the quantity of times that this man's dropping back to pass, it can be questioned, but it's the quality of his passing in that time. You know, if you throw, let's say you throw 3 times and you miss all 3, that's not a good outing. But again, you go 2 for 3. Pretty sure he had 90-something yards and a touchdown out of one of those passes. No? Okay, I'm wrong.
It was like 15 yards or so.
Okay. Again, even still, he throws very high quality football when he plays very high quality football. But piggybacking your idea with the rivalry, I think the rivalry goes off the field now to Bill Belichick and Sean McDermott. This chess match is getting impressive.
Yeah.
It is getting very impressive to the point where it has Bill Belichick having to alter how he plays. I've never seen a New England Patriots team run as much as they did game 1. Never in my life have I seen them run like that.
Yeah.
So that was meaning Bill Belichick now is experimenting. We haven't seen Bill Belichick put his thinking cap on in years. And Sean McDermott did that.
Yeah.
So that's a hat off and a testament to Sean McDermott as a coach and what he did in Buffalo. Spot on. But I'm hoping it's going to be like game 2, where it's very coordinated, it's very professional, and it's at the level of what Bill Belichick can produce on the field, which is really why this game is going to be a lot of fun to watch. But I feel like Buffalo could actually fall short if they allow the run game to pursue, either get outside the numbers again, and if Mack Jones decides to have a day.
He could.
Because he could just very well have a day. So, I like that one.
That's the thing, is with divisional opponents, it's a familiar foe. So it's like, hey, I know what you do, you know what I do, we're just going to go right at it.
Yeah.
And we're going to see. Honestly, I think this would be a bigger loss for the Bills if they were to lose this game, because they had such higher expectations for than the Patriots. We expected the Patriots to make the playoffs, and they did. But honestly, I think kind of there's where our expectations trail off. Yes, they were really good in the middle of the season, but they faced some pretty stiff competition later on in the season, and they kind of fell short. Buffalo was able to adjust and be able to figure them out. But, man, this is going to be fun. This is going to be so fun to watch.
A lot of fun to watch. And, again, to piggyback off you with Buffalo, like in the beginning, they were insane, and then they started unraveling a little bit in the middle. So where New England was coming together, Buffalo was opening up and beginning to really have some questionable ideas. Like, same thing when it comes to the Chargers. Very disappointed that they're no longer in the playoffs, but got to give the hats off to Pittsburgh. They were doing the same issues that the Chargers were doing, where it was very, like, in going deep into the game, you're making head scratchers of play calling. But Buffalo and Sean McDermott, they had the know-how to trim that fat and get it back together and start winning games so they could stay in that playoff hunt. So that's really another hat off to Buffalo in coaching.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I think Sean McDermott should definitely get his due, because he is the man in Buffalo right now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun to see them, and especially in this division, this third round of the Patriots and Bills. It's going to be so fun to watch.
And the fact that it's prime time pretty sure it's in Buffalo, right?
It's in Buffalo.
In Buffalo in prime time, so it's going to be cold.
It's going to be one of the coldest games of the year.
So I want to see how Mack Jones can play in the elements. Welcome to the AFC East, kid.
Yeah.
You're playing from Alabama.
It's going to get cold.
You don't know that cold.
It's going to get cold.
So I feel like that could also play a factor into this game.
But it's going to be cold, but man, it's going to be great.
It'll be on fire.
It's going to be great. But let's move on. And that's just the games on Saturday. We have games on Sunday to talk about.
Yeah.
And so the first game on Sunday is the 1 o'clock game, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 1 o'clock. Now, okay, it's good that Philly's in it. I kind of like that Philly's in it so far.
They're that team, man. We were talking about it, that they were the team that you really don't want to face them because they're just they're scrappy and they hurt.
They're going to fight. That's the thing, is they played the Bucs earlier in the year in Philly, and the Bucs won 28-22. It was, I believe, a Thursday night game.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that was a game we expected Tom Brady to win. But man, Philly kept it
good that game.
They looked good. They fell behind, yeah, but they looked good. And Jalen Hurts gives that Bucs defense fits. He's been absolutely balling this season. And it's just been great to see him not only just be such an efficient passer, but also just establish the number one rushing attack in the league. And which it's crazy. You would not expect that to come from Philly. From Philadelphia.
But
remember, the Bucs defense is ranked number one against the run. Their cornerbacks and their secondary is not their strong suit, but that front seven is
Vita Vea
is great. Yeah, Vita Vea is great.
And he just signed a massive lucrative contract with Tampa.
Good.
He signed like a 4-year extension the other day.
Good.
So he's going to be coming off of that momentum.
He's 25 years old now. So
I think it was like $42 million or something like that, guaranteed.
Whew.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
The man just got paid. And rightfully so, Tampa paid that man. So.
But your thoughts on this game?
A lot of fun. This game is going to be fun to watch. You know, I feel like it's another game you kind of expect Tom Brady to win. Tom Brady and the Bucs to win. Because, again, it's Tom Brady in the playoffs. He has his safety net Gronk. He was healthy. You know, he has a bunch of pieces.
But he is missing some pieces. Chris Godwin is gone, and Leonard Fournette is not expected to play.
Yeah, but Leonard Fournette, you know, he's like a game manager for when they're trying to open a hole. You know, he's now getting up there in years when it comes to a running back. You know, he has a couple injuries under his belt. Godwin, that's a big hit. You know, that's a big hit.
ACL tear down for the year.
That's a big hit. So, wasn't there also a third player who got hurt in that interim? I remembered.
I can't think of him off the top of my head, but
was it Mike Evans?
He got hurt, but I think he's coming back for this game.
Okay, so again, that's another.
But he's hobbled though.
Okay, so he's not 100%, but he has Gronk, who's healthy, in the playoffs with him again. So that's really going to be the focal point. And Philly's still missing a middle linebacker for the flats. You can't cover Gronk. They don't have an answer for Gronk. But on the other end, as well as Jalen Hurts can run, that man can throw the ball.
Yeah.
He is a baller. So that number one rush defense on Tampa is going to have a day. They're going to be very testy against Philly. They're going to produce problems. It's known. Now, how do you come over that? You pass the ball, and you start doing trick plays. We see more trick plays come out of Philly this year than we have in a bunch of years. They love that Philly special. Once they found out that it works, they were like, we're going to put that in the back pocket, keep it, and we're going to start creating more. Double reverses, flea flickers, and it works. So Tampa's a very blue-collar team. They don't run much unorthodox stuff on defense. It's very in-your-face. We're going to do it, and we're going to show that we're better than you. Now you bring in a team like Philly, where they run trick plays. That's going to get a blue-collar team frustrated. And they're going to have to start having to play frustrated and have to come back through that now. And that's why I love Philly in the playoffs right now. Because they're just a team that they're harassments. You know, they're a thorn in your side for 60 minutes. So, and if you let that thorn in your side get deep, they're going to smack you where it hurts. And it hurts Tampa in their cornerbacks.
Yep. It
hurts, and they have the firepower to hurt that cornerback scheme.
Absolutely. I just totally agree with you. I just love the way Jalen Hurts has been playing, and now these two teams, even though they played earlier in the season, they're not the same teams that were.
No way.
Really did not establish themselves as like the dominant running team that they were, and Tampa, they were a lot healthier then, and they're not as healthy now.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, they're also a couple wide receivers short. No Chris Godwin, no AB. He's a whole different story.
That's a whole different can of worms. We're not going to get into
We're
that.
not going to get into that, but they're not as deep of a team offensively as they were when they first met. But I think despite that, Brady's just going to find a way to win. But
as history shows,
but
yes.
Philly's going to keep it close, and I think I'm going to I remember when we talked about that game briefly, I said Philly's going to keep it close for Tampa, and I think the same for this game. This is going to be a very close game, and Philly's going to force Brady to be like, hey, look, if you want to win, you got to be the last one with the ball, and we may not give it to you at the end of the game. So it will be very demanding of Brady because Philly's going to make it very tough for him.
They're going to force Hall of Fame Tom Brady to come out.
Yeah.
That's really what it's going to come down to. They're going to force Tom Brady to really take his gloves off and be like, enough. They're going to be the thorn in his side for 60 minutes, and they're going to keep pressure on him all game. That front seven is sick. They need a linebacker, but that pass rush in Philly, it's sick. And where Tampa really falls short can be their offensive line at times, because they're an offensive line that, again, they get frustrated quick.
And they're young, too.
They're young.
They're very young.
So they're running off of full emotion. And, again, with the unorthodox play of Philly, they're doing, double stunts, going through different gaps on defense with the defensive linemen. They're going to produce mayhem on that offensive line.
Yeah. So
this game, I feel like I almost think I smell an upset here. Dude, I don't know. Philly, I don't think Philly's the team you want to play right now. At being Tampa.
It could be, but we're gonna make our picks at the very end. So, but you tell us what you think. Do you think Philly's gonna upset Tampa?
I'm gonna keep that one in the pocket till later. I gotta think on that one though.
Think about it.
I think I smell something here.
Let that marinate for a second.
Gotta let it marinate till the end.
Marinate. But let's move on because we have another great game on Sunday. The San Francisco 49ers coming into Dallas to play the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the line on Vegas is 3 points for those of you who bet. What that means is Vegas thinks that this game is a coin flip.
It is a coin flip.
And it honestly is, because as good as we think Dallas has been, in the past couple weeks, they have really beat up on their division convincingly, very convincingly against Washington, against Philly, against all their divisional opponents. They have dominated them, but they're 6-5 against everyone else.
Right, and that's always been the thing with Dallas, is that they have trouble beating teams over 500.
Yeah, Week 17, they had difficulty with the Arizona Cardinals and ultimately lost to them at home in Dallas. Now, this is another NFC West team that, much like the Cardinals, that they're good and they have good complementary football. The 49ers are going to challenge their defense and be like, hey, look, we heard your defense got better, but can it stop the run? Can it stop the playmakers of San Francisco, the playmakers of George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Elijah Mitchell? You have all this great talent on offense.
And Jimmy G at the helm.
And Jimmy G,
healthy Jimmy
leading it, because now he's a veteran quarterback that's seen it. He's done it, and he's
done it with the best.
And he's done it with the best, and he's done it with not the best too. Like when his team has been depleted too. So we've seen Jimmy G come in and just win big games.
Right.
And
he can get it done.
But Dallas is just one of those teams where it's like, okay, if they're playing their best on offense and their best on defense on the same day, you're not beating them. Because as great as they are on offense, they got better on defense. And it's been so great to watch because it's been led by the helm by the rookie Micah Parsons.
Oh my God!
And he's so versatile that he's all going to be all over your screen
all game
on Sunday. He's going to be in the box. He's going to be outside the box. They might put him in coverage, but he's honestly best as just a pure pass rusher, as like a TJ Watt position, whereas he's an outside linebacker going in and just pass rushing every single time, and that's where he thrives at. But they're experimenting with him and putting him in coverage and putting him
and D-tackle.
They've also put him at cornerback at one point
because he's that fast.
Because he is that fast.
But a big reason why they actually did that, sorry to cut you off, is Trayvon Diggs. You know, as much as you and we like him when it comes to his interceptions, he's the only player who's given up over 1,000 yards in receiving on defense this year.
Yeah.
So there's two sides to the coin that he's playing. You know, it's very apparent that he over pursues a lot, and that's why he gives up those yards. I remember when I was playing football and we would be in the huddle talking to the coach, he would always try to relay the message in the secondary. Widest in the wide and deepest in the deep. Don't look for the ball, look for the play. What that means is you have to be steps and yards behind the running receiver, and you got to be wider than them so they can't get outside you, deeper than them so they can't burn past you. He's looking to just be a highlight reel ball hawk. He needs to get that in shape, and in shape quick, or whoever he's on, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, he's going to be on one of them. It has to be, and he's going to be one-on-one with one of them a lot.
Probably Deebo. That might be my guess.
I would hope so, because Brandon Ayuk's route running would have that man crossed up in a heartbeat.
Yeah, but honestly, Deebo one-on-one, I take Deebo on that.
For speed, I agree.
For speed and toughness. He's
physical.
He's a physical
wide receiver. He's one of the most physical receivers in the league.
And you're absolutely right. And Trayvon Diggs, he actually reminds me of Marcus Peters in a sense, where over pursuing for a ball there is a term for that. We call it cluing, where a cornerback is cluing for the ball. And Marcus Peters is kind of similar to that, where it's like he'll clue and try to over pursue the ball just to get that pick. And sometimes he'll get it, and he'll get it more often than not. But there are times where he'll over pursue, and there'll be the reason why receivers burn him.
Right.
And that's similar for Trayvon Diggs, where he's kind of like looking for the pick, but no, you gotta
lock him up.
You gotta be with your receiver. You can't be focused too much on the ball, because if you're focused on the quarterback and trying to anticipate the ball coming,
where's your man going? You don't know.
Exactly.
You got to focus on the body in front of you, and then you focus on the ball when you know it's in the air.
Exactly.
And that usually comes to on-field communication amongst secondary.
Mm-hmm.
If they're running, someone will scream if the ball's in the air, if the pass is up, the whole nine. There's a lot of on-field communication that none of us hear while watching it on TV. So that's why a lot of cues are seen that we don't hear, and this, that, the third, like that. But Trayvon Diggs needs to get it together, or it's not going to be pretty for Dallas. But this is another very exciting game. Like, all of these playoff games from here out are going to be amazing.
Oh yeah, I'm so excited. But we have actually one more game on Sunday to talk about, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers coming in to play the Kansas City Chiefs. What the fuck?
Yeah, man.
You take it away. Take it away.
Yes. So first off, amazing game, dude, against the Ravens.
You know,
what a game.
I gotta say, I'm proud. It was an ugly game, but it was a Ravens-Steelers type of game.
It was a fist fight.
And, of course, it had to go to overtime and be a field goal to decide it.
The whole stage was just poetic. Of course, it had to be in shit weather, so there would be no ifs, ands, or buts. The better team would have to win. You can't. There's no excuse. It's raining, and it's hailing, and it's cold. No one wants to be there. Everything hurts. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, everyone's slipping and sliding all over. Again, it's just going to be the better team that won. Both teams played pretty bad. It was an ugly game. The weather really kicked both of our asses. Injuries happened all over the field. Hats off to TJ Watt.
Yes.
This man tied the all-time season sack record of Michael Strahan, and it's still being argued that he got that sack.
I mean, I agree with you. I think he got it too. They should have counted it right then and there, but I don't think they're going to count it after the fact.
It's gonna the actual verdict is gonna come out this week. The NFL is actually stepping in to debate it. If they do that, he will win. He will break the record by one. Did you know that since 2017, the Pittsburgh Steelers have been the leaders in sacks since he came into the league?
It ain't a coincidence because he's just been doing it.
He's ridiculous.
He's been getting it done, and honestly, he may be having a better career arc than his brother JJ.
And it's not close.
but that's a discussion for another time.
Then I'm gonna switch it over to Ben Roethlisberger. Man, what? Thank you. If it was to end in Baltimore, there would have been no better game to go out on. An overtime loss, hypothetically, let's say, against a division rival of 18 years where majority of our games have come between 3 points. There's nothing more you could ask from that on either side. Like, you really can't. That's an end of an era coming to the end the only way it can. That's how I would personally know as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, Ben Roethlisberger left everything there. He left everything in Baltimore, and that was that. But seeing how we won and we're going into Arrowhead, this is a testy little rivalry too going on. It's a playoff rivalry now between KFC and Pittsburgh.
KFC?
Wow, KC and Pittsburgh. Shut up, you. Yeah, that happened, guys. That happened.
You got food on the mind.
No, I got sleep deprivation on the no, between KC and Pittsburgh, we played in 2017 in the playoffs.
Yeah, I remember that.
So it's been a while, but we're back.
You know what it is that's been. I do like to see that matchup between Andy Reid and Mike Tomlin.
It's always good to watch.
It's a great chess match between the two of them. But both teams are completely different teams than their last encounter in the playoffs. But man, I want to start. I want to start with the Steelers and the Ravens real quick. It was an ugly game, but man, it was just one of those games where you just couldn't take your eyes off it.
You couldn't stop watching, and every play hurt.
I got to give my hat off to not only T.J. Watt but also Ben Roethlisberger because he made the plays necessary to win the game. In overtime, he threw it great to the receivers, to Freiermuth, to Claypool,
came in clutch in the fourth quarter.
Deontay, it was great to see him watch, and it's going to be so weird to see the Ravens-Steelers rivalry without Ben Roethlisberger. It's going to be very weird to see that. So, my hat's off to Ben, and the Steelers organization, but you just delayed the inevitable one more week. Because going into Arrowhead is...
Everyone hear the salt, ladies and gentlemen?
Yes.
Listen to that salt.
But let's be honest, though. That game they had a couple weeks ago...
Any given Sunday.
They were outmatched. They were fried.
Did I stutter?
It could happen.
Thank you.
It's not going to.
Okay.
I want to just say it's not going to happen. It's not going to be a blowout. I will say that. It will be a lot closer of a game because you give Mike Tomlin a second go-around, he definitely makes the adjustments. However, that Chiefs defense is still playing pretty well, and it's like since November, they've been playing extremely well, and the Chiefs offense has minimized the turnovers from the beginning of the year. Since November, the Chiefs have been a very different team, and the team that we expect them to be. And they just completely rolled the Steelers the last time around, and it's going to be a very tall task to order for the Steelers. Now, I want to just say though, there was one sports announcer that I was listening to. I believe it was Nick Wright. He was comparing the arc on how Dan Marino, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, how he exited the game by getting absolutely blown out in his last year in the playoffs. I believe it was 62-7.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. That is not going to happen.
But it is not going to be pretty for Pittsburgh.
No, and unbiased, I have to agree with that. It is a very tall order to go into Arrowhead right now with the way we are. more so because of who we don't have right now. Najee Harris got hurt in our game. You didn't realize that Benny Snell played the remainder of that game?
Well, I remember he played but I didn't know he was out going into this game.
I'm pretty sure he's out going into this game. I haven't heard anything confirmed, but he didn't finish that game. He didn't finish in Baltimore. So if we go in with having Benny Snell in the backfield, it is going to be an even taller order. You're asking way too much on that defense to hold them off from points. And now you're asking way beyond too much of Ben in the playoffs right now. You can't do that. You cannot do it, especially, again, Kansas City defense has awoken and is showing that they are still a championship caliber team.
Yep.
They are a championship caliber team. Pittsburgh, we're happy to be here. Now, I'm keeping the energy that I want us to move forward. If we get past Kansas City, it's not going to be the hardest of continuation in the playoffs. But it's getting out of Arrowhead that's the issue.
Yeah.
If we get out of Arrowhead, I'm pretty sure we would go to the winner of New England and Buffalo.
No.
We go to the winner of Vegas and Cincy?
No, you go to Tennessee directly.
Oh. Okay. With a returned Derrick Henry. Amazing. We're not going to talk about that.
We're not going to talk about that because it's not going to happen. Because the Chiefs are going to take care of business against.
You keep talking all these absolutes after everything that's happened this season. You haven't understood that you just can't pinpoint what's going to happen.
This is what I foresee, and I think you can agree with me here. If the Steelers are going to ask Ben Roethlisberger to throw 35 or more times this game, they're going to lose. And this is something that we've said in the beginning of the year where they needed to run the ball, but yet Mike Tomlin was still putting it on Ben to win the games. They were not looking good. With the absence of Najee Harris, again, it's a tall order to do, but can you give Benny Snell and maybe Derek Watt some runs? Can you give them some runs to kind of get that Chiefs offense off the field?
Well, the thing is, Derek Watt had his first handoff completion, his first run in the Ravens-Steelers game since 2018.
Oh my God!
No, we're not handing him the ball. They
have not given him to.
He has not had a run since 2018. He is a blocker solely, but that's what a true fullback is. You don't really get the ball much.
Sometimes,
if it's in the scheme,
yeah,
depends
on the team.
It took a minute to get our run game acclimated, but Najee Harris is 80% of our offense now.
I wouldn't say 80, but
this season it's actually yes.
He's not. Well, he has over 1,000.
He has 1,172 yards.
Scrimmage yards or rushing yards?
Rushing yards.
Okay.
He has 73 completions as receiving. So he himself is the focal point of what is supposed to be happening. So if he's on the field and you give Ben, let's say 35 pass rushes, he's going to run the ball 20 times. He's going to run the ball 22, 23 times.
They should.
And that's the way it goes with him because that's the way it's been going. And that has actually trickled down the numbers. But with Benny Snell, he isn't good for any more than 20 rushes. So now you have to take away 15 plays of the total gameplay for you guys, meaning you have to chew so much clock and hope that you just score at the end of it. You just have to keep putting points up, and we know how aggressive Mike Tomlin plays, that once he gets past the 35-yard line, it's 4-down football. Potentially, yeah. And I'm talking not in the opponent's zone, our 35. Once we get past our 35-yard line and he starts seeing the logo, if it's 4th and short, we're going for it.
Not always. Not always.
A lot. There's a lot.
So it depends on the game, but I think, again, for Mike Tomlin, he knows what Andy Reid likes to do.
Yeah.
And it's going to be that chess match between Mike Tomlin and Andy Reid. And I think from there it's going to be the Steelers are going to be a little outmatched. But because of Tomlin, they're going to be in the game.
Well, yeah.
So, and that's what I expect from the Steelers. It's going to be a little close. It's going to be a little ugly, but it's going to be tough. And Mike Tomlin is going to make sure that every Steeler out there on the field is giving it 100%.
And if not, they'll be taking a seat, and they will not go back in.
Exactly.
And that's what I've loved from Mike Tomlin for the past 15 years, is that he plays no favorites. He loves Ben, but he wasn't afraid to pull Ben. He wasn't afraid.
Yeah.
You know, he knows you're the best player on the field, but guess what? If you can't do it, I will put someone else in. You know, of course, he was hurt. That led for Mason Rudolph, but that, again, it showed I don't play favorites here. He's the best one. He was here. Mason played like shit. He put in Duck Hodges.
Yep.
Go play. Go play for us. So that's the one thing I always got to give my hat off, is that you can really see there's no favoritism in Pittsburgh.
So let's see if Ben Roethlisberger's last game is an Arrowhead.
And again, if it is, personally, again, I wouldn't be mad.
I wouldn't be mad either.
Because you know it's going to be a tight game. You know it's going to be a very physical, fast-paced game the entire time. All of these games are going to be. That's the way just playoff sports work. The intensity is just tenfold. I'm just going to keep the Any Given Sunday energy. It's just
it could happen, but we shall see. But we have an actually historic game on Monday night. The first ever Monday night playoff game is the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams.
No better team to do it.
What a great way to initiate Monday night playoff football.
Mm-hmm.
With these two teams who are, well, division rivals, and Matt Stafford, his first time in the playoffs in a long time.
Long time.
But he's never won a playoff game. And Kyler Murray, never been in the playoffs before. So both these teams, if they can get a win, I think it would be such a breath of relief for either fan base just to, okay, our quarterback can win us some playoff games. They can win us a playoff game. But what are your thoughts going into this game?
There's no better two teams to start off the Monday night playoffs tradition. Really. We were saying it early in the season that the NFC West could wind up being the whole division could end up going. Unfortunate for Seattle. But
3 out of 4.
3 out of 4, it ain't bad. that ain't too shabby. So, but these two playing on Monday night, both of them haven't really been playing up to par as of late. Arizona, at one point, they were the best team in the league, and now they're in Wildcard weekend. Put that one into perspective. LA Rams, at one point, they were the number 3 team in the league. Here they are at Wildcard weekend.
Well, they're not the number 3 team, but they are the number 4 team.
They still dropped considerably.
They did drop, and as of late, Matt Stafford has not been playing well.
No.
For the
couple
Rams.
of bonehead throws throughout the games. Bad turnovers late. So and that defense really hasn't been playing up to snuff in LA either. That defense, as great as it is, their holes open up late. It looks like both teams are really gasping for breath right now. And it's going to be a matter of who conditions himself at practice for the rest of the week. Who is going to be ready to play? They're playing in LA, right?
Yep.
All right, so it ain't going to be the temperature ain't going to be too bad. Pretty sure LA plays in a dome.
They do, yeah.
So the weather will not be a factor here. It's really going to come down to, I think this could be a last possession game. Team with the ball last is going to win.
I think so too. I agree with you. I think there were 2 instances. They played each other twice this year. In the first time, when Arizona went to L.A., Kyler Murray put on a show, and they had such a lead that the Rams just could not keep up. So the Cardinals you would say, kind of blew out the Rams in their own stadium. And then the second go-around, when they went to Arizona, the Rams actually got the lead, and Arizona couldn't climb back. It wasn't high scoring, but it was still they sustained a big enough lead for such a long time that no matter what Arizona did come the fourth quarter, it just didn't matter.
Right.
So I think this game, I agree with you. It's going to come down to the last possession. It's going to be a nip-tuck game throughout.
Yep.
And it's going to be just pound for pound, see what these teams can do. Now, there are some players that I think can, if Matt Stafford leans on a little bit more, it'll make that game a little easier for him. And Sonny Michel is the first name that comes to mind.
Oh, yeah.
You lean on Sonny Michel, your running back, get some tough yards, because he's a small running back, but he's a scrappy running back.
He can move.
He can shift. He's very versatile. So you lean on him, keep Kyler Murray off the field a little bit, and then when you do go over the top, you could either go to Cooper Kupp, who had the triple crown in receiving this year. He had the most catches, the most yards, and the most touchdowns by any receiver this year.
Yeah. He missed Megatron's record by, I think, like under 50 yards.
Yep. It was Megatron's receiving yards record in a season, and Cooper Kupp was so close.
He just missed it.
But man, he still had a phenomenal year. And then if he's doubled, who do you have on the outside? You have OBJ. Okay, that's not too bad. But then you also have Van Jefferson as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyler Higbee. So LA has a very good depth of talent for their offense. If you lean on your playmakers and make sure you just give the ball to your playmakers, it makes your job a lot easier as a quarterback. Now, on the flip side, you go to Kyler Murray in that offense. They're missing D-Hop, but they still have James Conner, A.J. Green, Christian Kirk, and they have some really good pieces there. And it's going to open up the holes on defense, because that Rams defense is not clicking. Even though Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey, and Aaron Donald, they're all playing well, they're playing well throughout the entirety of the game.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers were able to make a comeback on them in that Week 18 game, and because the 49ers hung around in that game, Matt Stafford threw a late pick and ultimately just sealed the fate, and the Niners took advantage and won it.
Yeah,
so,
and Arizona is very similar to San Francisco on that line. They are packed full of talent on both ends. And, you make one bad mistake, and they're going to capitalize, and that's probably going to be your downfall. So that's the whole, again, that's 3 out of 4 in the same division we're talking about. That's more or less exactly what all three can do. You make one mistake, and the team that you made that mistake is probably going to end up scoring.
Yep.
And that's why, again, it's going to come down to the last possession.
It's going to come down to the wire. But I cannot wait for these games right now.
Oh, my God. I'm so hyped for playoffs.
Shall we pick these games, Chris Paul?
Yeah. So, here, you go first. Who's going to win, do you think, Las Vegas and Cincinnati? You a Raiders fan this week? I'm going Raiders this week. Yeah, you're a Raiders fan.
I just can't pick the Bengals, but I just really like the way Derek Carr has been playing as of late. And honestly, I think it's because of him that they made it to the playoffs. So I'm going to give it to Derek Carr and to beat the Bengals. Fuck the Bengals.
See, I'm going to go with Vegas, too, for the sake of my soft spot. And again, there's no love lost for Cincy. I respect what they're doing right now. I respect what they've done. Do it again. Do it again next year, and then maybe we'll talk. Vegas is beating you. We're going to move on to round 3. New England and Buffalo at the 8:15. Everybody should be watching this game Saturday night.
Oh, man, it's going to be such a great game. I'm going with Buffalo. I think it's going to be similar to that second game, that second matchup that they had. I believe that game was in New England. Now, this game is going to be really cold. It's not akin to how Mack Jones plays. Buffalo can play in the cold. No wind. It's not going to be a windy game. It's just going to be a cold game. And I think it's just going to be very tough for New England to overcome that. And I think Sean McDermott has the personnel to just go toe-to-toe on both sides of the ball. So I'm going to go with the Bills and that they win this game, round 3.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you that Buffalo is going to win this game, but I think this is probably going to come down to the last possession again. Sure, Mac Jones isn't akin to playing in the cold. He's playing with Bill Belichick.
That's true.
So, again, he's in the best possible position that any rookie could be in, no matter what the situation. And that's up to and including playing in one of the coldest games in history. This man's going to put on his sleeveless hoodie, his wool hat, and he's going to stand there with his arms crossed all game, stone-faced like we've seen for 20-plus years. And this is going to be a chess match. I don't see a very high-scoring game, but I see a bunch of really big plays on both sides of the ball from both teams. So I'm going to agree that Buffalo's going to win, but I almost feel like New England could just get lucky.
We shall see.
We're going to move on to Sunday, the 1 o'clock game, Tampa and Philly.
I just trust Tom Brady and the Bucs to get it done. As though I'm happy to see Philly in it, and I think it's going to be a close matchup. I just think Brady's going to find a way to win.
You see, again, that's where the mind goes immediately. It's like, yeah, Tom Brady is going to Tom Brady Philly again. Philly beat him in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but that was a different team.
I get it.
They were
I
both
get it.
different teams.
I get it. I get it.
But
I get it.
I know your thoughts have been marinating.
It's been marinating.
What do you think?
I think I'm going to give my faith to Philly.
Okay.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to go out on a wing and a prayer and say that Philly is going to fly out of Tampa. They're going to do it.
I respect it.
We're going to move on to the 4:40 game, San Francisco and Dallas. Another barn burner.
Who you got?
I think I'm going to go Dallas.
Okay.
You know, aside from the issues with Trayvon Diggs and his yards, Jimmy G is very easy to read as a quarterback. And Trayvon Diggs is not someone you want to be an easy read for. So, and of course with the rush of Micah Parsons, and then you have on the offensive side, if they come out clicking, I'd say it every time, when that offense is on, there isn't a team in the league that can beat them.
Mm-hmm.
I said a couple weeks ago that when the Dallas Cowboys are flying on all cylinders, that's a Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
So
that's the thing, though. They're not always flying on high cylinders. And I'm actually going to go with the 49ers this game.
I figured that one.
I just think that they're more the complementary team. And they're more, even though Jimmy G, I agree with you, Jimmy G is easy to read. But just if he just gives the ball to his playmakers, no matter how he does it. Deebo Samuel. I love that matchup against Trayvon Diggs if he's on that. Deebo was one of the nastiest wide receivers in the league, and it's so great to see him. Brandon Ayuk, just another one. I think, honestly, the 49ers are just the team that Dallas does not want to face because they're Kyle Shanahan. He's a creative coach that he's really going to implement his personnel very efficiently against the Cowboys. And I think, although they're good, Mike McCarthy's very easy to read.
I agree.
He's a very vanilla coach. And he is the whitest of white coaches.
He is a very but again, the same thing with the playmakers. The ball gets to the playmakers and things can happen. You know, and Dak can get the ball out.
He can.
You know, he can get the ball away. He can make things happen. I will not hear the talk about how he's been in a slump. The Cowboys are the only team with 4 different players with 1,000 yards, and Dak Prescott has almost 5,000 yards passing this year.
Almost. There were only 2 quarterbacks to throw for over 5,000 yards this year.
One was Tom Brady.
Tom Brady and Justin Herbert.
That's right.
Justin Herbert threw over for 5,000 yards, but Dak threw for the most touchdowns thrown by a Cowboy in a single season. Mm-hmm. More than Roger Staubach, more
and
than Troy Aikman, more than Tony Romo. He has, I believe, 37 touchdowns as a Cowboy this year.
You're going to tell me this man's in a slump?
He was for a while, but he got it together. And I think, honestly, that win against Philly was a big confidence booster for him.
Sure it was.
And I think this game is going to be another game that's very close. But I think ultimately the 49ers are going to win.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to the Sunday night primetime game, Pittsburgh and Kansas City.
Chris Palmer, are you picking with your head or your heart? Tell me right now.
I'm going with my heart.
Poor fool.
I gotta go with my heart, man.
You poor fool.
Listen, again, if the clock strikes midnight in Arrowhead, it's the end of an era. And again, it's going to be a very emotional game. But I'm doing it. Pittsburgh. I'm doing it.
I respect the fuck out of it, Chris
I'm doing
Palmer.
it.
I respect it. I respect it. I'm going with Casey.
Of course you are. Of course you are. You sourpuss.
No, honestly, I'm not so sour about the game. I'm just honestly disappointed that the Ravens lost 6 games in a row to close out the year. Not necessarily to the Steelers, but just due to bad play and injury, and we're going to be different next year.
Salt.
But your season ends in KC, my friend.
It ends in the postseason then.
Yes. This man winked at me.
Your season ends at the bottom of the division.
3rd.
Oh, that's right, the Browns. Fuck the Browns. And now we're going to move on to the game of history, the first ever Monday night playoff game. Arizona and Los Angeles.
Oh, man, I'm split on this game. I'm so split on this game. I'm going to go Arizona.
You surprised me with that one. You've been showing a lot of love to LA as of late.
I do like LA, but Matt Stafford has not been playing well as of late. And that game against the 49ers, I thought was it was a little bit of a heartbreaker for them to go into the playoffs. To lose to San Fran, to a divisional opponent, just so close, and you basically lost it by yourselves. Like you had the game, but you just lost it in the end there. And I just didn't like the way that ended. I'm picking Arizona. I think it's going to be a really close chess match, but Kyler Murray is going to give that defense fits.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with Arizona that game.
I'm going to have to agree with you. I'm going to go with Arizona as well.
I'm sorry, Bates.
I'm not. I feel like Arizona, even with all the way that they've been playing, they're just the better team. You know, they have more talent. They're healthier. That's for fucking sure. And again, I don't buy into OBJ. You know, he is a roster filler that had a coincidental injury that led him to get on the field.
Yeah, he'd probably be the 3rd or 4th wide receiver at best if Robert
as of
Woods
right
was
now,
healthy.
He's the number 4 receiver because now they're still throwing to the tight end more than him.
Okay.
So he is their number 4 receiver. If always keep forgetting the name of who got hurt.
Robert Woods.
Robert Woods. If he was not hurt, OBJ wouldn't be seeing the field.
He'd just be chilling.
He would only come out in times when they'd be throwing a Hail Mary. They need 5 receivers. He would be a number 5 receiver at most. Now, hats off. He has 5 touchdowns in 6 games.
7 touchdowns.
In 7 touchdowns? Okay.
Since him joining the Rams, he has 7 touchdowns.
Okay. Good for you.
Which actually matches the amount of touchdowns Cooper Kupp has for this year.
Good for him. You're a number 5 receiver. You're a number 5 receiver. You were a number 4 receiver in Cleveland. You're number 5 here, and you're playing number 4 because your progressor is hurt.
Well, it's not just OBJ, but man, that team. You know what it is? Both teams match up well against one another.
They do,
and it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard fought, and it's going to be round 3. And I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to everything. All right, guys, that's our episode. That's the playoff wildcard weekend. We're excited. Hope you guys are excited. Feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to our page. We are Let's Talk Football. Hope you guys are excited for wildcard weekend.
Let's get ready for for playoff football, baby.
Hell yeah.